The incoming finance minister of Nigeria confronts a complex landscape of challenges. Escalating debt levels, a high unemployment rate, persistent inflation, and currency instability loom large. The need to align fiscal and monetary policies to stabilize the foreign exchange market is paramount. Additionally, there is a call for fostering collaboration between the finance ministry and other sectors to ensure policy alignment. And the task of achieving fiscal balance, improving revenue to GDP ratios, and addressing structural issues within the economy is another one on the agenda for him. Guiding the nation towards economic stability and growth while managing these formidable challenges will be the cornerstone of the finance minister's tenure. Joining me this morning on the show for this conversation from Lagos, Nigeria, I have Akin Fatunke, is a chartered accountant. Thank you so much, Akin, for coming aboard the show.
Thank you very much, Lake. Good morning, Nigerians and friends of Nigeria. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right. But with Nigeria's fiscal stability at a breaking point, what do you see as the most immediate challenges that you feel that Wale Edunrada will need to begin to tackle as the finance minister for the country? Areas that you feel in the next few years it will need to look critically into and deal with?
Lake, a low-hanging fruit. Trust. 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 The government says they are going to do certain things. They are seen to be doing it boldly. It may be very hard and harsh, but leading by the head and leading by example. So I foresee a situation where my brother, friend, and technocrat Wale Edun has to find a way to rebuild the trust. So the first thing he has to do is to key into Mr. President Bola Tinubu's hope agenda, reeled out to the whole of Nigeria, repeated at the swearing in, that he will not expect people to be working in silos. He will expect people to work collaboratively. The last count, 45 ministers, huge, already sending signals to the trust deficit that we have that is overbloated. So when I talk about trust, I'm talking about the fact that leading by example, asking people to tighten, their belt with government, leading that charge by tightening the belt. And that goes for not just the legislature, not just the judiciary, but starting with the executive itself. Cut down cost of governance and lead that by the head. Secondly, will be the fact that his best friend, in the manner of speaking, amongst the ministers has to be the Attorney General and the Minister for Justice, Mr. Lateef Adegbite. We must now get ourselves back to looking at the laws, enabling laws that we have. Those laws that will punish offenders, that I know we know, and Wale knows very well that we know, to show example, and rewarding those who have been put down, so to speak. So in the next 1 year, trust deficit, looking at issues surrounding the rule of law to be carried out to the letters, adherence to court orders, very, very, very important, and then leading the charge as the servant leader for the 45 others who are supposed, in a manner of speaking, to be working in bit of a staccato. What has it taken on? High inflation, high unemployment, poverty, staring people in the face, getting back into a government that has decided that they are going to be very bold to stop the bleeding, or stopping the bleeding, ensuring that the enabling laws and the consciousness to do the character, the capacity, the competence, and the compassion comes into it. Listen, and listen more to people. The second thing I will say within the team will be to come out and tell Nigerians the truth. There have been a lot of not altogether what I'll call altruistic appreciation of the problems we have. The Nigerian economy must have a declaration of a state of emergency. We are in tatters. Attempts to try and rebuild us means we have to rebuild the confidence of all the geopolitical components, not just at the federal level, but also at some national levels of the states and the federal government.
Akin, sorry to cut in. You've actually mentioned a couple of areas that you know that Nigeria needs to look into, most especially as we have a new finance minister on board. But then let's begin to break it down into bits. And you emphasize the issue of trust. And some Nigerians, according to reports and feelers that we're getting, have actually lost confidence and trust in the 2023 budget. So there have been talks that the ability to have that particular budget being implemented is not something that is feasible. So now having a new minister come on board, what specific strategies do you feel that Edo will need to take to bring on board to revisit the credibility and ensure that budgets moving forward are things that would affect the common man, are credible, can be implemented, and will bring about economic transformation for the country and for the ordinary Nigerian?
Super. In specific reference to 2023 budget, we need to now stop on attracts, accept the fact that the way it is not going to be implementable. The dollar component of the non-oil revenues that we have decided we need to dollarize, can we stop that for a little while and see how we can rejig and rebalance our focus in that respect? That's one. Secondly, governance. The MDAs all must be acting within the framework of the monetary and the physical policies that have been tested by government. I will suggest very vehemently that Mr. Wali Edun set up a monitoring team that looks at all the MDAs and all the other agencies of government to see that they are keening into the new agenda, no matter how hard, with adequate scorecards, with adequate KPIs, with adequate KPAs, to ensure that on a regular basis, they meet together, they review, they come out and say, sorry, my dear nation, we thought it was going to work, but it's not working as we thought it was going to. We are going to change gear. We are going to ask you to persevere a little bit more. First of all, like I said, by cutting cost of governance. And that cost of governance starts with the federal, with the executive itself. I must say that the perception that is out there that everybody knows, and I'm sure it's getting to the hearing of government, is the fact that while the 20% in the Pareto analysis are enjoying and smiling and riding big cars in the face of penury and wants, the 80% going beyond the 80% now are now in abject poverty. Let's listen to them. Let's lead them by example. We can't continue to ask them to do those things that we are not doing ourselves. So the 2023 budget, like I said, the dollar component of the 2023 budget should be looked at again. I do not think that we should shy away from, again, getting into appropriation, sending additional appropriation on the fact of the subsidy that has been removed. Albeit, this time, not going to borrow and borrowing for consumption, but going into those critical areas that Mr. President has mentioned, the kind of incentives that he has given in a way and manner that's going to help. Finally, I'd like to say two critical sectors, the education sector and the health sector, whereby you have the jackpot syndrome, people voting to go and spend hard currency to go for education and all that. It needs to be looked at a bit much more critically. Convince and making sure that local content is adhered to as much as possible. Unless we do this, articulate this, let the populace know on a regular basis by communication, and real communication, and showing our palms and saying, this is exactly what I'm saying, this is how it is affecting me, and this is what I think is in store for you if you just make sure that we persevere. That will be my short takes. There'll be a couple of other medium to long-term takes that we can...
Okay, I can... Yes, I understand you, and you've also talked about the need for government to cut down on cost of operation and its expenditure. That would actually affect the fiscal balance of the country. The other issues of debt sustainability, we're still looking at 77 trillion naira being owed, and the country's external reserve that has actually dropped to about 3.7 is it billion or trillion dollars now? $1 billion as the case is. And we see that Nigeria owes this much, and we are still talking about revenue growth in this kind of economic cash crunch. Now that we have a new man coming on board to channel the affairs of the country in the finance sector, how do you think it should come about addressing these issues, reducing the debt burden of the country, increasing the reserve of the foreign reserves of the country, and seeing how revenue, of course, we still have issues around tax administrations, tax collection, and all that, getting revenue from all these sources and see how to power the economy. How do you think that Wale Edun should go about this?
Example. I repeat, example, to build the trust so that you can have the artillery to be able to move forward. The first thing I believe we should do is that I do not trust the fact that accountability has taken the center stage. Coming to this new regime, we know people that have despoiled, our Commonwealth. We bring them out and show them as a bit of punishment. And you are right. While we are doing that, we are also at the end of the day making sure that we diversify the economy. And Mr. President, by body language and by speech, has decided that he was going to expand the nooks and creeks of the economy. We have the marine economy, we have the digital economy, we have the creative economy coming on stream, we have the solid minerals coming on stream. They all must be made to show what scorecards they are going to have, what their visions are, and they are beginning to unleash those visions. Those visions are already keyed into the manifesto of the ruling government. As long as we do it in a way that is not only systematic, like acting like yesterday, making sure we lead by example, adhering to the rule of law, and ensuring that court pronouncements are made, I will say we are in the right trajectory. I will try and explain to you, for instance, that I am not sure for the life of me, we can say that we are united. We are really not united. We are speaking at different levels. I'm happy, for instance, the IPOB have come out clearly to say that no more seats at home. You know what that is going to engender? We need to strengthen the security architecture that we have right now to be delivering what should be delivered, taking the low hangers that came from the previous administration, looking at railway, stopping the one that should be stopped, and making sure that we do what I like to describe as all-inclusive growth. Finally, the monetary and the fiscal must have a necessary kiss. So whoever is going to be the central bank governor should not just be a well-honed economist, a banker, as the case might be, that really understand the nuances of the way the Nigerian economy is and be structured. I will go to the long term. The long term will be the fact that the structure of Nigeria, I am afraid, dance left, dance right, go to the center, go backwards. It's not working. We must do physical federalism in such a way and manner that the geopolitical zones will have a way to develop at their own pace, and in fairness, within the next 2-3 years, we should be able to have the capacity developing at our different paces to bring something to the center, whereby we will now have a way to now share equally amongst others. The revenue allocation and fiscal commission thing that we are now getting more money into the coffers. I know the enabling laws is such that whatever comes in, you share. Actually, we may have to begin to look at that. Mr. Wale, I know I have to now look at that and say, look, can we begin to look at it from saving some things for the rainy day? It has happened before, but we must do it under the ambit of law, ambit of transparency, ambit of accountability. We must make sure that it's going to be the direction that we must go. Finally, the tax that we are looking out for, I know the manufacturers are already talking about double taxation. That should not be the focus. And we find a way to expand the tax base. And I know that Mr. Oyedele and his group are thinking deep and hard in ways and manners that we all getting the trust, making sure that we give it on to the purse of the government, getting the FRS to now be the central collating point, and making sure we distribute in equitable forms. I must also say that Mr. Wale Edu must press one way or the other, because if you don't plan to succeed in planning to fail. We must look for how we are going to do our census that's going to be credible, so that we can do a very good planning for the country.
Our finance minister for the country needs to do, and we hope that he'll be able to take all this into stride and see how to rejig the Nigerian economy. Akifatu Nke, Chartered Accountant, thank you so much for talking to us this morning.
Thank you very much, Leighton. I believe so much in Nigeria. Together we win, as in Ujama.
We all do. We all do.